that. I saw how much Ghana owes. But I also found that apparently the Minister of Finance's company or former company is a transaction advisor to the monies we borrow. So as Ghana gets poorer, the Minister of Finance's company or former company gets richer. Is this what we want to continue in this country? Do we want to elect people into office, give them their pay and their perks, and then allow them and their friends and their companies or their former companies to be the very beneficiaries of the woes of our country? This is not only about the Minister of Finance. This is about Parliament. Parliament, you must be ashamed of yourself. You have failed the people of Ghana. Because I don't think from the time of Nkrumah to date, whoever is the Minister of Finance should be benefiting every time our country goes to borrow money. Is that what happened under everybody in this country? What precedent are we setting? When I read the report, I was so broken. And I was like, do people know this? So I called 4 different people, some in civil society, some in government, some in the former government. And they said, oh, but this is general knowledge. And I'm like, it's general knowledge and Parliament thinks it's okay. So whoever wins the next election will also set up their own companies and be the transaction advisors when we go and take a loan. What is wrong with us as a people? So the person's motive for even going for a loan for me now is not clear, because every time we take a loan, their company makes money. Does this make sense to us as a people? Look, we have leaders of industry, some who have been, deprived of their finances. And in the meantime, the people who are sitting in power are stealing us blind. And all people can tell me is, oh, but this is general knowledge. And then Jimmy and what a shame. What a damn shame. When they are out of power, will they want whoever comes into power to repeat what they're doing? This is not NDC MPP. Parliamentarians, you are supposed to help us protect the public purse. You can't just go and sit there and vote, I am MPP, I am NDC. Vote your conscience and vote your constituency.
What are you expecting the MPs to do?
The MPs? But you cannot become the transaction advisor for going to take loans when you are the Minister of Finance. How is that possible? They are the legislators. If they won't speak up about it for the whole country, but for me taking time to read this much over the weekend and yesterday, I wouldn't know the details of this. So now go and bring all the loans we have taken and show us all the transaction advisors and see whether they have links to the presidency or the people who are the ministers or the people who are in legislature. Why are we doing this to ourselves? What kind of nonsense is that? Hey,
if there's a conflict of interest,
conflict of interest is where it starts.
So Stride should be on the ball on this one.
And where are they? Where are they? Look, right now Ghana has become each one for himself, God for us all. I was speaking to one of my staff yesterday. He said, "Boss, I went to buy gas. 14 kilo cylinder now is 152 Ghana cedis. 150 Ghana cedis to fill the cylinder, 2 Ghana cedis for the rubber. When I take 152 Ghana cedis out of my 1,400, how much is left? Now water is going up, electricity is going up. And some people who we have put into positions of authority are raping the country. Why? Why? Sikahiana mubedi. You are leaving it for your children, and your children know you are doing this, and your children will come and tell other people's children that mo papa and mo bra, because you were stealing from the people. So those people whose parents did not steal from the people will be suffering. And your foolish children will come and tell those children, mo papa and mo bra. They be, mo papa and yesika. What is this? And nobody wants to talk about it. Because if you talk about it, they'll impoverish you. Hey, massa. Obi nkuwa. Wow. If nobody kills you, you die your own natural death.
When we are calling for the termination of the appointment of Ken Ofori, we are not just saying it with words. We also start negotiations with Parliament to expedite the action on the vote of censure, because Parliament has initiated the steps already. We just don't want the finance minister out. We also want the finance minister to be arrested. You have seen how his companies has overtly benefited from all the mess that he has driven this country to. Anywhere in the world, the finance minister will be in jail by now. Anywhere in the world. To that effect, that we want the finance minister to be arrested. We don't only want him suspended. We want him arrested and prosecuted for all the mess that he's put this country through, for all the suffering he's put all of us through. Today, all of us can barely breathe because of the recklessness, the fiscal recklessness of Ken Ofori-Atta.
We know that all throughout the processes from 2017, even to date, from 2018 and 2019 and 2020 and 2021, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta no longer works with Databank. And all transactions that has been involved, which they have been transaction advisors, has been made public. Parliament is aware, even with all records. And so the continual influence from some media practitioners to want to make the government unpopular, I think that we need to be able to set the record straight. The Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta is not working with Databank. Databank is an already established institution in this country.
Right, so you've been listening to some people who have been commenting on their grievances with the finance minister, and in fact, and one of his deputies, whose companies they have shares in, I think that's the correct way to put it, companies they have shares in have been parts of the Eurobond processes and make a profit, so to speak. And so you've been listening to Kwesi Che Dakwa, KKD, is popularly known, and then you also heard from Asepa. Then you heard from Palgrave Boache of Databank. You see, I think he's in government now. He's working as he's not of Databank. He's working in government in the position of advisor or spokesperson on security and some other matters. Let me begin with Professor Lord Mensah. What do you make of these sustained accusations? These accusations have been made for a very long time. Even on this platform, people have made it, but it does appear that KKD has accentuated it and has attracted the finance ministry issuing a statement to clarify what the situation should be.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will take this back to our constitution and how the finance ministers are appointed. Now, there's a huge gap in our constitution as to what we can determine as conflict of interest. For me, if you leave me, we should look at some of these, our laws, and make them dynamic. Our laws are so fixed to the extent that when things change, we are not able to act in a way to reflect what is on the ground. Now, if you look at what is happening on the ground, clearly, Ken was an owner, and at a point, the same as a manager, which we normally use in the literature, we call it owner-manager. So he's an owner at the same time a manager. But then when he became a finance minister, he says, fine, I'm no more a manager again, but the ownership is still in there. And even if it's not a direct ownership, there's a history, an attachment to that company. And if you leave me, I will say that even to appoint a finance minister, we shouldn't have anybody who has had a history with the financial space. Samson, you know how, we had problems with our banks. The banks at a point in time, every bank you pick in this country, you will get a board member who has worked at Bank of Ghana before. So ex-Bank of Ghana official, who has a strong tie with, the bank, which, effectively can help in a way to maneuver or have access to funds that supposedly the banks are not supposed to have. So effectively, we have problems as far as, our constitutions are, concerned, and how we appoint, The constitution has been made in such a way that, there's a kind of a belief which put all Ghanaians to behave rationally. And I can tell you that as far as human beings are concerned, you always get the irrational ones. So in order to avoid some of these things, I would have looked at it this way. Let's not appoint any finance minister who has worked with, a bank before, who has, interest in the financial space, be it historically or currently. So it has to do with a gap.
So, Prof, experience doesn't matter, and some of these people, they come with a certain personality that even helps, your management of your finances.
You see, there's a difference between managing a public finance and then managing a corporate finance. The restrictions that you have at the corporate level, it's not the same as the public space. The public space, you have the accessibility, you are public, spender. In the end, you have control, which sometimes can go in excesses. So over there, you look into the box very well. You look at somebody, Setekwe was a finance minister. Was he having a bank? Was he having any investment institution?
But it shouldn't always be that. Most of the people who have the expertise would have had some sufficient time in private, service.
Private service, but then what is the history? This man was, was an owner of a bank and a manager at the same time. Immediately he became a finance minister, even at the vetting. He said he's no more working with the bank again.
Yeah, he had left about 4 years before that or so.
That's fine, but he has history in there. He has an interest in there.
Yeah, he has shares. That's all right.
Which effectively you cannot compromise. At the end of the day, we shouldn't overlook some of these basic things when we are making appointment. That is what I would say.
So you say you blame it on the Constitution. I don't understand that. If you can explain, because the Constitution in Article 284 says that a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office.
That is when he's a rational being or a rational agent occupying that office. At the point where he becomes irrational, what do? So there's a huge gap in that regard. And I can tell you that let's look back into, our constitution and then look at how we can change some of this open statement, which at the end of the day, people are taking advantage of it day in and day out. And in the end, is costing the country big time. And so for me, for a finance minister to stand in between a transaction, a company that he's related to, a company that he has ties to, and then at the end of the day, that company serving as a financial advisor, in a way, it won't control, the kind of borrowing we do. At the end of the day, we're going to grow to a point where the country would develop what I call, a bond maniac to bond issue. Because when the bond is issued, that is when you're going to get, that kind of fees on it to keep, his company going. So in the end, let's look at the Constitution. And then if we are appointing an officer, we make sure that the officer's history to maybe any of the financial institutions or investment institutions will not be less than 10 years.
Some say that we may get into a situation where the best qualified will not show up to take up these jobs, because even if their resignation will not be enough, and that by resigning, we still insist that their companies will not participate in businesses that they have been known to do all the time and for which we have seen their expertise and call them into government, then we will not have the best people joining government to help. Martin, what do you say? The legal issues certainly are also important, but people are raising other matters. They say, for example, let me read to you this and then get your comment. Dr. Lloyd Amoah of the University of Ghana says that the defense of the Ministry of Finance is heavy on verbiage and misses the conflict of interest question. If you are linked to companies and leave and get into a position of influence, it is prudent to keep your former company out of any dealings involving you directly or indirectly. The merit argument cannot wash, given the history our republic's political economy. You cannot, for example, stack the cabinet fully with only your relatives simply because they merit it. It is these same, forked tongue and immoral politicians who turn around and want and have institutionalized presidential tickets made up of an Akan and another, usually minority ethnic group. In such an instance, they conveniently forget their dodgy, frothy, dubious merit principles. Politics as a way of making otherwise intelligent folk completely insane. Inane. In our republic, peculiarly interest-blinding politicians has a very long, sordid history. We ought to pay attention. Yes, Martin.
Yes, Sam. Good. We need to go a bit into the history, okay, of this whole bond market specialist where Ofori Atta has taken advantage to make about 160 million for his company, Data Bank. We need to go a bit into the history. But before then, let me say clearly that I subscribe to the view that the politicians are also fiduciaries. If you go into the literature out there in governance, there's that debate. In America, they say they are not exactly fiduciaries. The British subscribe. So when we say fiduciary, what do they expect? That you will take care of the assets that are entrusted to you as your own. So the question is that if Ofori Atta was taking care of the bonds that we are raising as his own, would he be giving his own company the opportunity to trade and to have made 160 million by this time? I see an absolute no. But Sam, that's just a tip of the iceberg. Let's go into the history of this matter. Look, let me tell you something. I bounced the explanation with an industry player. You know what he said? He laughs, quack, 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 quack. He just laughed and said, Martin, you're a small boy. You don't understand what's happening. Point number one. Look, Black Star Securities, Boahens company, had next to zero market share at the time they were made part of this whole bond, acquisition and sale process. Let me repeat. You see, this is what happened. In 2015, under the previous regime, they had the Ghana fixed income market, okay, where Strategic African Securities, that's Togbe Afede's company, Stanbic Bank, and Barclays were the joint book runners. They were the joint book runners, so they were responsible for business, and they had previous experience. Everybody knows that Togbe Afede started with Ofori Atta, that's Data Bank. He was first with Data Bank, and then subsequently he moved on to form his own company, that's the Strategic African Securities. So these were the companies, Strategic African Securities, Stanbic Bank, and Barclays. They were doing these trades, okay, and advising government. 2015. Their tenure ended in 2017. Then Sam, please let viewers listen to this carefully. When their tenure ended in 2017, then Ofori Atta as finance minister, they reconstituted this team, reconstitution, where they elbowed out strategic African securities. They elbowed them out. Everybody knows Toby Afede has been in this industry for God knows how long. They were elbowed out, and then GCB Bank and Fidelity Bank were brought in. Then Sam, watch the catch. That is when they now also gave the Black Star the opportunity, that's Edu Boahens company, to also trade. So they had the opportunity to trade up to. So you see that the explanation they gave, it shows 2019, 2020, and onwards. Sam, single question, and I'm daring the finance ministry. They should show us Black Star Securities trading share in 2017. How did they qualify before you come to 2019? They should show us. Edu Boahens was working here with a very small company in his armpit. I mean, come on, we've seen him before. He was working with the company in his armpit. It was a very small company. That's nothing. So they should show what are the statistics in 2017 at the time they came into office in respect of Black Star Line Securities. They were next to nothing. Then, because the joint book runners was reconstituted where SARS was elbowed out, which I think is against the Constitution, Article 35(8). I think, Sam, earlier on, you mentioned the Constitution. So I think the part that the state shall take steps, is that 35(8). Yes, the state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and the abuse of power.
Right.
Question is, how was Toby Afede's company elbowed out when their tenure ended in 2017? Was it on merit? How did Black Star Line Securities get in? Edu Boahens, Deputy Finance Minister, how did his company get in? So they did that, having muzzled out these people. Then they gave Black Star Line the opportunity to trade and to get a huge market share. Then they now came to the next step and said they are appointing the bond specialist. So by then, Edu Boahens' company has accumulated enough experience and a big market share. So that's how come you see Edu Boahens' company there. And I'm telling you, Sam, on authority, let's go and review what was the profile of Black Star Line Securities in 2017, 2018. Then you will see. So look, the industry players just said that, look, Martin, this paper, this explanation from Ministry of Finance, dated 1st June, 2021, they said, throw it in the dustbin. The guy laughs, he said, you guys, you are small boys. You are just ignorant. We are ignorant. So, Sam, you see, we don't know. We are just scratching at the surface. We don't understand. Look, the other things I was taking through, then I saw that, look, this is a mafia game. Complete mafia game. The other things I was told, I don't think there's time to go through that. But the key thing, if anybody is doubting it, 2017, what was the profile of Black Star Line Securities? Edu Boahens, Deputy Finance Minister, his company. What was it? Okay, so you can't do that as a state. Right. And Ofori Atta at the helm. So when you say you don't see conflict of interest, you don't see breach of, I mean, when I say you, not you, Sam, of course, you are a strong advocate that we should stop this. I'm talking about, is it Pelgrave Boachi Dankwa? He had the temerity to come and give that explanation. Pelgrave Boachi Dankwa should tell that to the Marines. We are not kids. Or they think that we cannot go and ask industry players, look, Sam, I beg you, do one thing, Joy FM, you owe us one thing. Organize a full session for the industry players to come and educate Ghanaians. Then you will see the thievery. Then you will see the thievery. As Gabi said, sole sourcing is what? Thievery. And that's practically what was done in this case. Because before they reconstituted the thing in 2019, what was the profile of Black Star Line Securities?
All right. So you catch your breath there. Yes, as you say, some of the industry players are sending me messages and saying that you are absolutely right. What is the last thing you want to say?
Sam, just one fact. So if you look at the table, Ofori Atta is saying he has just 11% in data bank. Please, that one to tell it to the Marines. You see that a certain company, the data bank, foreign company, has 60-something% of the shares in data bank. Let's go to Seychelles. they should bring out the beneficial owners of Data Bank, the foreign company that has the biggest share. Then you see the real people. Please, let's stop deceiving Ghanaians. So KKD was right on point. And you see, when Adongo first started this thing, about a year and a half ago, a lot of us didn't understand. But that is where, follow the money. You will then see the thievery. The thievery.
Okay.
This is practically so sourcing.
Martin, thanks for your input. Yes, let me come to the studio, and I think that I should have you speak last. Yes.
Okay. So my learned senior had dealt with the bulk of the matters, but you see, like they always say, the devil is actually in what? The details. Is that what the point is? My senior Martin says that, look, if you go to the records will show that, yes, it's true, the NDC brought the issue of the Ghana fixed income market in 2015 and appointed 3 joint book runners. Barclays, now called ABSA, Stanbic, and the third SAS. In 2017, this 2-year contract came to an end. At that time, Ken Ofori had assumed the position as Ghana's finance minister. Now came the point of reconstitution of the book runners. Now catch it. For the first time, Data Bank was introduced into the... Please, relax. For the first time, Data Bank was introduced into the conversation as a non-bank financial, company involved. So 3, Blaster Brokerage, who owns it? Obviously, the deputy finance minister at that time. Then you have IC Securities. Then you have, of course, Data Bank as the non-bank. Already remember that there are some banks that were doing it even under the previous. But like my senior pointed out, SAS were elbowed out. Now, if you look at the numbers, and that is where you begin to see the abuse of power, the issues of money, as alluded to by KKD. Look, in the year 2017, if you pick the numbers, you notice that on the buy side, there is always a buy and sell side of the bond market. On the buy side alone, Data Bank was doing over 100 million Ghana cedis on the buy side. If you look, Blaster had 0 million Ghana cedis. They were not at all. So in 2019, you notice that Data Bank now moved, catch it, from 100 million to 1.25 billion Ghana cedis on the buy side alone. Now, this is where it becomes tricky. For the first time, Blaster, that had just come in, now moved from 0 million Ghana cedis to 843 million Ghana cedis, bonds that they traded alone. Then in the year 2020, Data Bank now moved from the 2,700 million to now 1.58 billion Ghana cedis bonds they are trading. Now Blaster, that had 0 in 2017, now moved to 1.95 billion. 1.95 billion. That is the volume of bonds that they traded. So if you look at just the statement released by the ministry, you will not get it. It is when you go to the bond market itself, that is when you begin to see the activities of these 2 companies. And incidentally, the owners of these 2 companies are the principal managers of the economy. One thing that we need to ask when it comes to a conversation about conflict of interest, in 2019, that was where for the first time, the Ministry of Finance created what is now known as the bond market specialist. It never existed. Now, when the Ministry of Finance created this whole portfolio arrangement, they then contracted 3 companies, IC Securities, Blaster Brokerage, and Data Bank. Who employed who? So the finance minister, who is a beneficial owner of the shares of Data Bank, employs his own company as a bond specialist to himself, decided the fee to be paid to Data Bank, and now pays Data Bank after work. What more is there to conflict of interest than this? Now come his deputy, now elevated to the status of, a minister of state in charge of the finance ministry, Charles Boahens. He has a company called Blaster Brokerage Advisory Services. It is 95% owned by Blaster Holdings. Blaster Holdings is owned by Charles Boahens. 5% of the shares are owned by his brother, Christopher Boahens. So 100% of Blaster is owned by the Boahens. Look at...
So his resignation doesn't matter?
It did, because they are the beneficial owners. But you know even what is even more shocking? Senior, I want any Ghanaian listening to me today to do a request for information to the Registrar General and find out whether the finance minister, by reason of the New Companies Act, had even been filing his beneficial owner filings to the Registrar General. None whatsoever. Charles Boahens has not equally done so. So as we speak, on the books, they are still the holders of those shares.
How do you know that?
We have done our own work. He came to Parliament and lied. So we're preparing a perjury thing against him. And so we have to do our searches. It is shocking what these two individuals within the finance ministry have basically done.
You made an information, request for information, and you got these answers when?
We got these answers in 2021.
2021.
And nothing had been...
So you would not know by now?
No, I'm monitoring. Don't worry. It's a trap I'm setting. It's okay. It's okay. Don't go further.
I'm even asking this on the basis that what you are saying is taken for granted, because you don't show us the proof of what you have done.
Okay, so when he came before the Appointment Committee of Parliament, he raised certain issues, and I do not want to disclose my client. So we had to intervene just to prove to him that he lied under oath. And we did a search. And the results showed that Blaster, he is 95% shareholder, and the brother is 5% shareholder. As it stands, nothing has been done. And so when the finance ministry issued that statement, I don't know whether it's in response to the concerns raised by KKD. It's like they didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't know. And you see, there's this honorable MP that I need to applaud on your show, Teresa Awune, MP for Kankwe North. Consistent with this probe, she filed an urgent question on the floor of Parliament. And that one, it was limited to our Eurobond conversation and how much. And if you look at the answer that Finance Ministry is provided, but that one detailed how much money they have made by ways of fees.
That's right.
And from all indication, Data Bank alone, if you look at the commission, is over 158 million Ghana cedis. Now tomorrow... Is
it 157 or 58?
58.
Okay. I saw it then. Let me look at it again.
Today, government hype men and government communicators will tell us that, our finance minister doesn't take salary. If my company, of which I'm the beneficial owner, right, had made over 150-something million in the space of 4 years or 5 years, I don't need salaries. So the point ought to be made that the pillage...
Okay, so it was 159.
59, sorry.
Yes, 159.31. Right.
Yes. So, Senior, the point I am making is that the issue of the bond market specialist is a creation by Ken Ofori and Charles Boahens. And catch it. For the first time, they recruited themselves, companies that they are beneficial owners of the shares, to become bond market specialists. And you know what the bond market specialist does? They basically like they are wholesalers of the bonds. Then once they get the bonds, they will now sell it to the auctioneers, the what you call retailers. And so they make the money and they buy the bonds at a discounted rate and now sell it and make money. Look.
Well, what do you say to the
President
fact
Akufo-Addo, before then, President Akufo-Addo, I remember in his inauguration, made the point that if you want to make money, government is not the place to make money. Go to the private sector.
He had been saying that even before the inauguration.
And I've made the point that, Senior, if Ken Ofori, for instance, had remained in his private sector and is taking advantage of the situation to make his money, I have no problem.
Do you think
just
sincerely?
the same.
Do you think sincerely that it is fair that before their government took office,
Sure.
they were in this business? Of course, if you take a Black Star brokerage out because of the genesis that you
Which
and
you know
Martin
we can't take it
have
out.
given, okay, that they were in this business. Is it fair to now look at them? And now some people are even raising issue and say that when they were in opposition, we remember the circumstance where there was a debt that, call it Akufo-Addo debt, that it took Data Bank,
The last minute intervention.
Yes, it took Data Bank to come to the rescue. That the president clearly, is seeking
Beneficial.
to get these people to recoup a sort
How
of
they
recoup.
spent on him.
Yeah. Is it fair on the basis of the fact that they had been doing this all along before they won power?
You see, the conversation is even beyond the question of fairness, if not the criminality. Because, like Senior Martin pointed out, this is Gabi Asore-Chudakun likening sole sourcing to stealing. How did these three companies, and remember that
Let's ignore that because it hasn't changed. The sole sourcing still goes on. When they were in opposition, they insisted that sole sourcing is a way to steal. But
Exactly.
unfortunately, they've come and they are still sole sourcing even cathedral projects.
But
Yeah.
you see, the point I'm making is that the question of the bond market specialist, Data Bank had never been a bond market specialist. It's a creation of 2019. So what?
Okay.
So the question of fairness
let's hear from
is the
John
point
now.
that his role as a finance minister, the person in charge of our, the public finances of this country, and you say Lord Mensah raised is it Lord Mensah, Dr.
Yes,
Lord Mensah?
yes.
Raised a very important. I need to dovetail. He wants to possibly put the blame on the Constitution.
Yes.
But if you look in the superior wisdom of the framers of the 1992 Constitution, they envisaged a situation of this nature and provided constitutional safeguards. What happened is that the watchmen of this country went to sleep. I represented Broja Jemfi when the issue of the famous Ken bond, the 2.25 came, and we went to Shraj. Shraj in that report, albeit set aside, raised an issue that our finance minister's role in the financial sector is a cause for concern. We all went to sleep.
But as a lawyer, the question I want to ask you is this. We deal with laws. We are a country of laws. This is a rule of law country.
Proceed.
So the Constitution says a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. You know that once, even if they were still in the companies that we are talking about, as into the day-to-day running of the companies, the rules provide an opportunity for them to make full disclosure. And then they would have cured the question of conflict when matters to deal with the states came before the companies. In this situation, they have resigned.
But beneficial owners, proceed.
So have they not satisfied the law?
No, they have not. And I'll explain why. Who determines how much fee is paid to the bond market specialist? The two gentlemen. Who procured the services of these three companies, including IC Security? The two gentlemen. And you see, in the spirit of transparency, to raise the conversation, maybe to cure, what you do is that you allow persons who are not you to take the decision on fee payment. In the spirit of transparency, what you do is that you publish the individual contracts for the whole public to critique it. None of this. And in fact, these things are shredded in secrecy. How do you cure conflict of interest with opacity? It is never done.
Thank you. Yes, John. The public reaction is one that suggests that the government doesn't understand or appreciate what is going on. I read to you earlier Dr. Lord Amoah's comments.
Yes.
There's also this comment by Kofi Asare, And he says, in the public sector context, a conflict of interest is a situation where a conflict arises between public duty and private interest. The issue is never whether or not Databank was in the business in the past. That is a propaganda to dilute the real issue. The real issue is here, whether by being a beneficial owner of Databank, the private interest of the finance minister is likely to affect any decision he makes while he is in that public office, especially at a time Databank has become the darling boy contractor under that ministry and its agencies. I believe a potential conflict of interest situation could arise. And he says, don't forget, the man paid the 2 million MPP debt to Prudential Bank while in opposition. He certainly isn't an NGO.
Well, Samson, I must say that discussing this topic also puts me in a huge conflict position.
I like that.
And I better disclose it before I'm also taking on.
Why, some of your companies are involved in government business?
No, I mean, I serve as deputy to these bosses, the two names that are being
all right. That's
mentioned
understood.
at the moment.
That's
And so
understood.
my comments have to be very measured. Let me put on record that it is within the laws for citizens to be worried about conflict of interest situations for public office. And whether it is actual, perceived, or potential, they are matters that have to be dealt with so that we can restore confidence in our public sector. And so I don't have any difficulty when people raise legitimate issues, whether it's about me or any of my bosses. My only difficulty is when people want to go ahead of, the people want to raise questions and answer it in their own way, and based on the same answer they personally give, then they want to crucify you. To be fair and honest, everybody in this country knows that Mr. Ken Ofori has been with Databank for a very long time. And there has never been an occasion where he has hidden this. And so it's a fact. And everybody, like you rightly said, everybody will come to government with a certain background. You're either in the finance space or in a different space, and you are given a responsibility. And whether coincidentally or by wisdom, before even your appointment is given to you, they want to check your background and know where your expertise are before they appoint you. So in most cases, you are appointed into public services, public sectors, to work in areas where it is perceived that you have certain level of advantage. And so we are going to continue to have people with certain background and linkages and experience in our public services and public appointments. So this will not be the last time. That is why I'll be very happy if we can have this discussion in a very objective level and see how best we can use the law to resolve these matters, rather than calling people names, giving a dog a bad name and hanging it. But respect to the facts, which I disagree with my friend Eduji. In 2012, Mr. Ken Ofori resigned from Databank, and he made it public. Everybody in Ghana knows he resigned. He insists that he's a beneficial owner.
Yeah, he has shares.
Yeah, he has shares, yes, but not as a director. He resigned. We know that he resigned and announced that he's out. In 2014, under President Mahama, his first Eurobond, they did industry selection to pick about 3 book runners. And it was led by EDC, EcoBank, Databank, which placed second, and SAS Securities, the one Senior Martin says belongs to Togo Afede. Now, these were the 3 book runners in 2014 for Ghana under President Mahama. Okay, so it is not because NPP is in government or because he became Minister of Finance that a company he has worked in before or continues to have shares before became a book runners or part of our Euro market. These are matters that have always been known. Now, I think we must all come to a level where we say, or we have some level of dealings. Because if you look at our laws, the Constitution you read, and it is even made clearer in the Companies Act, where it is said that there must be a cure for conflict of interest. Because the people you put on every board may have interest in certain transactions that come to the board. How do you cure it? And it is provided in the Act.
In some cases, the way to cure it is not to appoint those people to those boards.
That is one option.
Like the CDD,
Agree.
The CDD's former Professor Jima
yes,
is saying that the Council of State member who has been indicted by special prosecutor, appointing her to the Ports and Harbours Authority was wrong. The president shouldn't have done that because you know that she's a major stakeholder there.
But you see, that is what I referred to earlier, the wisdom in our appointment, where in most cases, we look at your background and where your strength is to go there and help. And unfortunately, we don't look at the negative side. But the same people could go there with a lot of expertise and experience to help lift up the place. So we have to have this discussion with that mindset of how do we improve it and make our laws better. So yes, recusing yourself could be one of it, but also full disclosure of your interest and excusing yourself for the processes to be followed, for due processes to be done, but yet everybody knowing that you are still part of that company is also right in law. Now, I will not seek to give judgments the way listening to KKD and some people, the way they always want to go. I know in this country that Black Star Holding and Data Bank are public knowledge for every Ghanaian, that these are companies that our two finance ministers have worked in before or continue to have relationships. How do we want to treat such a situation? This is what we must all understand. When
you are standing like a statesman.
No, well, in this position, what else do you want me to stand? When the former finance minister under Professor Mills, what's his name? The banker.
Dufo.
Yes. When he became finance minister, he had banks in the country. How did he work?
He had bank,
Unibank, with branches. So, I mean, in that sense.
Okay.
So, and not just bank, he had insurance. He had all kinds of interest in the financial space. And I believe his appointment was based on the fact of his performance or experience in that sector. So how, going forward as a country, how do we want to manage with picking people with experience in a particular sector and at the same time ensuring that conflict of interest situations are addressed within the law?
Do you remember?
I will advise.
Yeah, okay, give your advice and I'll ask you a
that
question.
those who are so pained by the current situation should go to court, or either the Supreme Court or High Court, so that we can all be guided. Because as far as I am concerned, these two public officers have acted within the law. They, even at their vetings, they have disclosed this, they've been questioned, every information has been put out there. All of a sudden, it's turning out to be another unheard of situation. So we must all be guided by the law.
In opposition, you used to raise issues about Unibank and how it was doing some business with the government? You were so unhappy, the NPP.
And that was when Anando made that promise. You see, people take you for your words.
Okay. In fact, anybody who said it at the time would have cause to say it. Anybody saying it today will have cause to say it. I'm saying that going forward. And that's why I even referred to him, that as a finance minister and with all his experience and background, anybody will have to question why this is going on.
Should we keep what we have now, or when you suggest that some people should go to court and the rest
if they think what is going on.
I don't see what the court aspect will be.
Yes.
But I'm asking, what do you think should be done? Because people are asking, you may resign, you may recuse yourself, you may make a disclosure and then recuse yourself when decisions are going to be made in which a company that you have interest in is involved. But if you are the final authority and you are recusing yourself, whoever is taking your place will still have at the back of their mind that they cannot do something against you. Or you may have actually given them instructions that, yes, I'm recusing myself, but make sure that data bank is catered for. If you don't do that, you will suffer. And the person will not come out and tell the world that this is what happened.
Yes, but the reality is that this special bond market specialist that we talk about, the selection was not even done by Ministry of Finance. It was done by Bank of Ghana based on industry. But why? You are here as a lawyer, you know there's separate of powers, and everybody has its limits to authority.
First of all, the bonds, bonds are raised by government of Ghana.
Through
and not Bank of Ghana.
Oh.
Please, you know it. And the minister
through the Bank of Ghana.
The volume.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm saying that these are facts. These are things everybody know. And I'm saying this is not the first time we have been here. And it may not be the last time because when you come to government as a lawyer, you may be put at the edges. And maybe your firm may be required to give an advice. So we just have to have a broader understanding of how we manage it.
We have the OSP issues, let's not forget. And we have just a very limited time to deal with that. So let me get, this one I'm getting only Professor Lord Mensah to pronounce on it quickly, then we move on to the OSP. There's a suggestion, including by, I think, Professor Kwekwa Sari, that let's create the government departments and empower them with the expertise to do these businesses so that you don't have to give it to private companies. If we want to do things, Attorney General's department will do a lot of work for us when it comes to law, the legal things that we need. Nobody has the expertise better than the Attorney General's department. Maybe Attorney General's department may decide that they want, external lawyers to do some work around it. But the bulk of the work is not given to external lawyers. Is it possible to build such a unit within the state that will be doing this, since we are likely to be borrowing till whenever? Yes, Prof.
We should. Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Yes, of course. You see, usually when bonds are being issued, you anticipate that the mediators are not supposed to be, or the owners of the mediation entity are not supposed to be those of interest in the whole bond. So effectively, we can create a special purpose vehicle for this purpose, for which there will be a standard measured, financial entity to mediate on behalf of the state and whatever bond we try to issue. So for me, we can have those structures down.
Okay.
And that should be able to help us.
I'll share just a few messages with you, and then we move on to Special Prosecutor for your very brief comments. Kojo says that, please, you are still on air. Kojo says that when Databank worked with the Finance Ministry before 2017, there was no suggestion of conflict of interest. But when the founder became Finance Minister, a conflict was immediately created. Remember, the provision of the Constitution says likely, real or likely, must be avoided. At this point, should Databank still be involved in business with the Finance Ministry? This is a conflict that is incurable, as long as the Finance Minister remains beneficial owner of Databank. Just making the conflict public knowledge does not remove the undue advantage the public officer's private company enjoys. And now, just look at the facts. Under this Finance Minister, our debt stock has ballooned from 122 billion to 335 billion. And Databank has benefited from the incursion of so much of this debt. As Finance Minister, how motivated has he been to pursue solutions other than borrowing? Then Frank Anderson says, the real question we should be asking John Kuma is, if in opposition he claims Ken's firm was still involved in the space, why have they kicked out other players with better track record than Databank and Blackstar Brokerage? We are not stupid people. Let people not misconstrue our silence for stupidity. Then Felix says, Charles is Boahens, in fact, a business partner of Ken Ofori Atta. His company, Black Stars Holding, has shares in Enterprise Insurance, also partly owned by Ken Ofori Atta through Databank. Black Stars Holdings bought those shares from Sanlam Insurance, which is a South African company. PK in Elembele says that, in fact, the effect of the collapse of the banks in Ghana under the government far outweighs how the government is defending their actions. Many jobs were lost. Depositors lost their capital. Many couldn't withstand the shock and died. Today, Namwan has gone scot-free. No, he hasn't. Could he have done this? Could he have done this in former President Rawlings's regime? Okay, so that is a question you ask to end the message that you sent. Then Asante says, he says that, how about the AG's department acting as transactional advisor to government and the state? Won't this solve the so-called alleged conflict of interest now in the future? Because as a principal legal advisor to the government and the state, the AG's office should be able to perform that transactional advisory role as it does always on all other legal matters to the government. That's a point that's been shared. Thank you. Wisdom says, please look at ex parte McCarthy. We had our favorite saying there that, quote, justice must not just be done, but it ought to be seen to be done, end quote. If you would recall, in the Dimes versus Grand Junction Canal case, a decision of a judge was quashed simply because, unknown to him, he owned shares in the company of the party he ruled against. This finance minister matter is appalling, and we are all to blame for this as a society. Read a final one. Musa Batoa says, the banking sector cleanup was a lazy exercise they have done. It's smeared with the corruption and mismanagement. If Ghana were to be a personal company of President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, I don't think they will spend 25 billion to collapse instead of spending 9 billion to keep a business afloat. We have only 10 minutes to go. Martin, I'll begin this with you. Briefly, what do you say about the chiefs from the woman who has been indicted by the OSP's report? The chiefs in her region have come out and they are not happy with the OSP. They say he should reverse what he has done. We also have the special prosecutor who has issues and says this should not have been issued. Then people are now referring us to why the president shouldn't have appointed this woman to the board after all, because Ms. Asuma Hene actually put up a building for these chiefs, a massive project for these chiefs in the region. And when it was being inaugurated with the president in attendance, she said she had done it on behalf of the president. Please unmute. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, the last statement that she had built the edifice on behalf of the president underlines the influence that she wields. She's really Cleopatra in the food import industry, frozen chicken. Real Cleopatra with a lot of power. Sam, let's repeat something. That building, please, it's no small building. One, an auditorium to contain 600 persons, and then courtesies for the chiefs. Is it 7 or 11? They are named there. And a lot of other facilities. Auditorium taking 600 people, courtesies for all the chiefs, their traditional council, when they go for their meetings. So
there's no crime in philanthropy.
Obviously, yes, Sam. But ask yourself, who gives such huge sums of money for free? She's not Father Christmas, not at all. And let's quickly add that, and I mentioned it, Sam, in 2019, this Mrs. Eunice Jacqueline Asumahini, her companies were involved in evading tax. August 2019, the GRA staff, specifically the custom staff, did an operation. They raided her and other companies and found evidence. So she had to pay that tax. And Sam, I'm saying that there was a Joy FM reporter on that mission. Joy FM, you should air that video. And some people are scared. Please, look, listen, this fight, you will die anyway. And like you see, we've been saying it, and KKD repeats it. Look, we should not be afraid of death. Death can come anytime. Even in your room, you can lie in your room and still die. So Joy FM, I'm challenging you. You have to air that video where Mrs. Asumahini's company was caught. I'm just about mentioning the reporter's name, but I'm leaving it to you, Joy FM. Please air that video, that documentary, air it. Custom staff went there, they caught her and her company. They were mislabeling chicken as fingerlings in order to reduce taxes. And she was made to pay, and other companies also paid. So you see that as for Mrs. Asumahini, it's always been her stock in trade. That's it, beat the system, evade taxes. And that ties in with the president's statement earlier on that exemptions is our biggest problem in Ghana. So people who are close to the corridors of powers, they can get tax exemptions and all that. You say, and that quickly brings in the hotel to the president's in-law. That hotel, you see how he got big tax exemptions. So chronic capitalism.
What do you say to Martinamidu? Martinamidu says this is hollow. It shouldn't have been done in the first place. There's no legal mandate for it.
No. Mr. Amidu, I think shot over the bar. It's a mandate. Please, I'm seeing the OSP's the regulations 2374 under regulation 5. The OSP said what that report is a preliminary inquiry and it's provided for under regulation 5.
Do you think it's the same thing that Martinamidu also did on Ejapa?
Excellent. Sam, that's why you are such a smart lawyer. That is it. That's why he did in Ejapa. So I don't know why Mr. Amidu suddenly has come to this 180-10. He's done a U-turn to stand on the other end. Sam, so I should mention to Mr. Amidu that please, he should go slow. Maybe in case he hasn't seen, on social media, some people are saying that what he's done is beginning to sound more in terms of Konongo Kaya. I'm not supporting it, but I'm just bringing to bear what people are saying. And would be to say a satire police also having the same meaning as Konongo Kaya. Please, I'm not supporting it, but we have to inform him that Uncle, Venerable Martinamidu, we have so much respect for him, but this particular thing, I don't agree with him.
All right.
Ask yourself, La Bianca, they went there with 6 lawyers. 6 lawyers. Is it now being imputed that the lawyers are not competent? Is that the meaning? They saw it and they paid. So it's been done and dusted. So I don't see how we can now come and say, oh, it shouldn't have been done. Please, we are happy as citizens that the
OSP.
The tax was paid, 1 million. Yes, OSP did that. And it's not just the 1 million. Sam, let's repeat with all the energy we can muster. It's not just 1 million that's been saved. But the GRA, Commissioner General, God bless Amishadai Owusu, he wrote that they should stop this discounting. They should stop from November.
That's right.
And you see, November 2021, he stopped that practice. So it means that it's not just 1 million we've saved, but we've saved millions. Because can you imagine how many hundreds and thousands of containers have come in since then? And also, Sam, let's repeat, a journalist who paid with his liberty, Tamaklo, the publisher of WhatsApp News, he attempted to interview Mrs. Asumahini on these matters. The police hierarchy had him arrested, a very senior police officer, I understand is even related to Mrs. Asumahini, had him arrested. So Mr. Tamaklo today, OSP has vindicated him. He paid with his liberty because he was arrested and then lost his liberty for a while. Today, OSP has vindicated him. So please, this report, I support OSP. Of course, by all means, it can't be perfect, but this is not one of the occasions that will throw him under the bus. Let's also repeat, Sam, I think that OSP is senior to Mr. Damwa when it comes to public office. OSP carries same terms and conditions as a court of appeal judge.
That's
Mr.
right.
Damois is down there. The fact that he counts money, he sees money a lot, doesn't mean he's senior to OSP. So his comment even that
Well,
OSP is
I think what's important is that the GRA itself, as in the head of the GRA, says that they respect the OSP's office and they will continue to collaborate with it to ensure that they save money for the state. I had wanted to hear Professor Lord Mensah on this also before we go, but I just ran out of time. I need to let you know that at 12:30 on this network, on Joy Sports, the Joy Sports team have caught a big fish. The legendary footballer Samuel Eto'o will be live in this studio at 12:30 in an interview to look ahead of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. So join us as Gary Al Smith interviews the legend at 12:30 today. Samuel Eto'o. I can't miss that interview. And as always, my outfit is by Habil's Couture. You can find them at a Jiringano Gate, East Legon. You can call them 0200 84 1988. 0200 84 1988. Just a while ago, I was asking, at the start of the show, I was asking Eduji Tamaklu to get me his designer who has been sewing his political suits. Very nice political suits.
Thank you.
Right.
The socialist with
yes. Who's been doing that for you? Who's been sewing them for you?
Max Sterling.
Max
Stallion.
Okay.
Yes.
And he does it extremely
Excellent.
well.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely
Great.
well.
As for that, socialist
No, but
with capitalist
he's not confused. He's not confused.
Socialist with capitalist taste.
yes.
Interesting there. Now, my guests have been John Ampontia Kuma. He's a lawyer and he's Deputy Minister of Finance. Martin Pebu is also a lawyer and rights activist. Yes.
You know, when I was the legal advisor for the Legon SRC, he was the judicial committee member, and he was terrorizing me with dissenting opinion.
And he was the whole president for Kwafu.
Not surprising. Myself and John, we're going to partner for the SRC elections.
All right. He ran away to be president and left me.
All right. Also, we've had Professor Lord Mensah, who is Associate Professor of Finance and Financial Economics at the University of Ghana Business School. Godwin Eduji Kujo Tameklo is lawyer and member NDC National Communications Team. Samson Lardy Anyenini, this has been Newsfile as always. Have a good afternoon.